talking about fighting styles.
And because helping me with this class.
And because Peter likes having me assist.
I'm Peter. I live on the eastern edge of Iowa, part of Polaris. I'm happy to have you all here today. So the things that I heard a lot of people want to have, they want to learn how to construct plans for themselves. Right? They want to be able to read what other people are doing better, come up with better solutions. In general, I want to try to break through plateaus, that sort of thing. And just learn how to get better feedback. Learn a little bit more about how to talk about it. All right. So there are multiple steps to not only building a plan, but analyzing what somebody else wants to do or could do. And all of that's going to start at like a pre-fight, right? Because you're going to have essentially 3 types of fights. You're going to have the type of fight, tournament-based fights specifically. You're going to have the kind of fight where you feel like you're a superior fighter and you don't care about setting up a plan, and you will go in and crush them. You will have a fight where you feel like you are at equal terms and you treat that fight as an equal terms fight, and then you'll have a fight where you feel completely outclassed, right? And there's not a lot of in between those 2. Okay? Now, people tend to put themselves in a lot of holes because of these 3 types of mindsets, especially when you run into some, you will also, I guess a 4th, where you run into somebody that you just have to know nothing about, right? You look at their garb, you look at their shoes, you look at their gear, and you're like, man, he's wearing trail runners, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Right, those are Lone Peaks. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I've got the superiors. Right? Like, this person came wearing footwear prepared to fight. Right? They take this serious enough to buy a pair of shoes for this business. Right? Right? You can look at somebody's gear. Like, they put the effort into having this beautiful shield cover on their shield. Right? Right? It was a very basic. Nope. Okay. This is a Gorg special, essentially, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, this person has a Gorg special shield, but this is a commercially bought shield, right? You see somebody with like a really homemade shield, you may judge them.
Or a very janky sword.
Sure. Like if I walked up with this sword, you'd be like, huh, that's a weird sword for Peter to be, using, right? Or like a bigger, wider, heavier flat, that than you're used to seeing, right? You make these judgments upon the fighter before the fight starts, okay? And those are important. However, again, you're going to very much like pigeonhole yourself sometimes. Especially if you come out to Armageddon or Oktoberfest or something, you'll run into a couple little boys that use flats just like that, and they will put the vast majority of all of us in a hole because they're very good, but they haven't traveled much. Tree Thump in my company, he uses a big heater shield, and you would meet him and you'd be like, well, you're big and tall and you look like you're fit and stuff, but he's one of the best fighters that I know, and he is a monster, right? But you would look at his gear and you would judge him as like somebody that came off the shelf, right? Not somebody who's been fighting consistently for like 35 years and who's very good, right? Or where's your gear? Or you have somebody that comes up displaying a bird on their belt favor, right? And you're like, oh man, like what am I getting into now? And like if you took off his garb, you took the bob away, right? And he's just got like a black shield that's like well made, thin, and a well made looking sword. It becomes ambiguous then, right? Like you're not really sure what to expect. It could be either very good, or that you could be like, well, like they just bought nice stuff, right? So all of that you need to kind of like let these things like kind of filter through, what you're observing when you come into a fight. Now, what this can do is there's also two ways that you can essentially form a plan. You can either form like an active plan or a passive plan. Active meaning you're in the fight. So we are in the fight. Like, okay, I need to analyze what he's doing while we're fighting. Between fights, I have to think about it. Or these two are fighting, and I'm sitting here going, I'm forming a plan for the future for myself, analyzing what they're doing. Okay? So when you're at a tournament, you need to be not only paying attention when you're fighting, but you need to be paying attention when everyone else is fighting. Because you don't know if you're going to be coming up to these people, especially a tournament where you're going to run into people that you don't normally fight. The kingdom level tournament is different. You fight a lot of those people all the time, right? And so you have a plan with most of those people, but then you have a random guest that you've never seen before. Or you go to the, when the Hog Cup was running, you'd go to the Hog Cup and you'd run into somebody you've never seen before. Or at SKBC, you're running into somebody from Western Canada, right? Exactly. So you got to pay attention to what's going on around you. Most of the really good fighters, they're always watching. Some of the old-time really good fighters, like, Delos, he sits there at the ditch field and watches everybody fight for half an hour before he scrapes himself out of a chair and fights. Because he wants a plan going into it against everybody, right? So, let's grab, you can stay up, Raph, you sit down. Once you come up with your trick. Okay, so once you guys get squared off like you're gonna start a tournament fight. Alright, now just freeze right there. Okay. Now everyone let's start diving into this. Alright, what are the first things you notice right away? Go, shoot them off, fire them off.
Small punch shield?
Small punch shield.
That's
strap.
a large strap.
Strap shield. Yep.
Both right-handed.
Both right-handed. What else?
Both sword foot forward.
Both sword foot forward. What else?
Taller, shorter stance.
Dex is really tucked up.
Shorter stance, longer stance. Okay. What else?
Dex is really tight. On defense, I mean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. What else?
That sword only has blue tape, which means it could be slash only.
Yeah, you're right. That would be something that's important in Bell. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else?
His stance is a lot shorter, so he's going to be ready for a longer step forward, whereas he's wider, so he's more going to be a shorter step.
Sure. What else?
The strap is strapped in the middle, which means it's not as extreme of an angle movement.
Good point. Anything else?
We're fighting in Crocs.
We're fighting. That's a great. You know what? I'll tell you what. If I come into a tournament and I see somebody wearing Crocs, I'm like, this guy is rooted in place. He will not move.
You're gonna die if you try to do a bunch of footwork in Crocs.
Yeah,
But he's
but
got
it's
the
true.
strap
But it's
on.
true. That's important. What else? What else? What else? Even safety gear.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Right?
yeah.
No gloves? You got gloves?
but
You wearing gloves?
He's got one glove,
got one
the other
glove.
glove's not on.
He's got one glove.
Glove that counts.
One glove. All right?
He's not dropping that shield.
He's not dropping that shield. What else? What else?
His stance is more open with his punch forward, but he's got a gap between, whereas he's punched up tight into an A-frame on his, closed down on his shield.
Sure. If this was an actual tournament right here, right now, what else?
They're starting kind of close to each other.
They're starting awfully close to each other. The sun is also right here, right? So, which isn't a big deal, but it's casting shadows going this way, right? So the sun's at his back.
Dex is also a little bit on
Right.
the hill.
Yeah, we're on
He's
the-
uphill.
Yeah.
He's downhill. What else?
Not enough reeds.
Okay. Now, based upon gear choices, all right? What expectations do you have?
That shield is going to be a lot more mobile, so there's going to be a lot more moving around.
Yep.
That one's just going to stay there and take a lot of hits.
Gex
So that one's going to have to move a lot more
Okay.
to get around.
is on meta, so I'm assuming he does this a lot.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I
So this is atypical, and this is more typical.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now, all right. Those are great points. Okay. So let's hone in on those specific things there. Right? What off the bat, a shield that's going to move around a lot. Your expectation is they're going to move the shield a lot to cover. Like, how can you use that?
You can throw fakes in there. A lot of feints.
Yeah, you form your plan around fakes.
Yeah, you can pump to try to see a natural reaction. Maybe they're baiting.
Okay. Yep. That's a great point, and we'll come back to this.
You can see if you can back the shield out of the way when you hit, because it might be less structured if it's being held
Okay,
too far out.
so you can do something with your equipment to solicit a reaction that will give you more information, right? All right. What else?
Create an opening with more aggressive.
Yeah. Anything else?
I'd watch out for shots from weird angles.
Watch out from shots from weird angles, right? Because stuff's going to be coming in all goofy. Yep. Exactly. Which, okay, so now, in any tournament situation, what is the most important thing?
Not losing.
Don't die.
Don't die.
Okay? So anything that is dangerous, you avoid. Okay? So if shots can come in at funny angles, you must do what to give you as much time as possible to not die?
Keep range.
Control range. Stay away. Do not let them close on you. All right? All right? Okay, so now. Okay, here, hop out of the way for a moment. Bye-bye. Okay, so if chuckles, giggles, yeah, chuckles.
Malin.
If Giggles and I were fighting, and I wanted to, solicit these things, right? In any given fight, the first thing that's going to happen, they're going to say, lay on, right? They start the fight. One person is going to move before the other, right?
Yeah.
And how that person moves is extraordinarily important. If they start to fight,
Am I reacting to anything?
just follow my lead, all right? Or you can sit there. But I kind of like this small shield. Otherwise, I put you. So, at the start of the fight, if he takes a small step towards me, like to close range, so now we can strike each other, that tells me a lot. It tells me that they want to get to me. If they close range to this point here, where they can't hit me without another step, unless my arm is out, then I'm like, like look right there, right?
Yeah.
That's a really great range. That tells me, like, okay, this person has a basic understanding of their extreme range, right? Go back. If this person starts to fight and they take a small step back, that tells me something else too, right? Go back. If we start the fight and they don't move, and I take a step like this, and they take a step away, I'm like, okay, this person wants to stay away. Right? If we start the fight and I go like this, and they moving on me, I'm like, okay, this person either wants to stay at this range from me or they want to close on me. Right? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like breaking it down as basic as you can. Now, if we start the fight, and let's take the feet out of it for the moment, and let's just analyze the hands. If we go to here, and I go like this, and they jump like a cricket, like their hands move, like, oh, like you're like, okay, well, this person's jumpy. So any smaller motion that I make can solicit a greater response from them. If I go like this and they don't move at all, like this, and then they move, I'm like, okay, well, it's going to take a little more. Right?
Yeah.
So this is, like I'm saying, like active analyzing what other people are going to do or want to do, or trying to make anticipations. You're never going to be perfect with this. However, what this will do is it'll allow you to form a plan. Going into the fight with a plan is always going to be better than going into a fight without a plan. If I go into a fight without a plan and I'm like, all right, or even like, without a plan, it's so foreign to me. It's hard for me to rationalize that. But I'm just like, I have no plan to have my guard in the way. I have no plan to strike anywhere. I just come into range. It's a great way to get hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, why would I do that? Mm-hmm. How many times in a ditch field have you watched somebody do that?
A lot.
They come in with their shield, and you're like,
They're hitting the.
they're walking up like this.
Yeah, sure, exactly. And maybe that is their plan. They want to hit you. They want you to hit them in the back. But you form a plan, right? So you're like, okay. Every plan should stem around a couple things: what you can observe and how the best way to protect yourself. The best way to always protect yourself is to have your gear in between their striking thing and you. Right? If I'm within range, my sword's going to be in the way at all times. If I'm fighting him single sword, there's no way. There's no way. I don't care what his shield's doing. My sword is always going to be in the way of whatever, of wherever that is. He puts it down low, right? Like not even swinging. Like if you're just like ready to go and you're like this. Right? Okay. Okay, so we've analyzed the gear, we've analyzed a little bit of movement. It's gonna take a little bit more, right? In this case, not always, but just for instance. So now we're like, okay, I've observed these things. What plan should I do? All right. So what's hold your gear like face down. What's a great, just like icebreaker? Like maybe I could try this.
I want to see what happens when I. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I want to see what happens when I fake towards that hip.
When you fake towards the shield side hip?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So like we're like oh, whoa, right? Okay, so great idea. However, to do it, I'm going to do it with another sword. If I do it single sword, I'm going to be doing this so that my weapon's in the way when they inevitably want to hit me in the chest. Right? But if I do that, I'm like okay, well, they bit that fake, and then they return. I'm like, oh yes, okay. With that exchange there, that tells me I'm going to take that arm every day of the week, and I'm going to do it safely without danger. So here it is. Right? My weapon's in the way at all times. Right? See, that's a plan, and that's a. I'm going to see what he does if I show him a hip. Okay? Show the hip. Like, now we form a plan. Let's say he didn't return. Well, all right, well, they didn't throw, but they did move the shield. Okay? So, what's my next step, right? Start forming a plan from that. So what's something else? What's another, like...
Throw at the hand.
Yeah, throw
Throw the hand. That is a wonderful tactic. All the time. Great idea. Doesn't matter what gear they have. Whatever's close, whatever your gear is that's closest to them, you can kind of poke at them with it. Poke at their hand. And the reason why it's a great idea is because unlike, and this isn't a bad idea, but unlike, coming here, I have to actively be thinking, are the dangers coming here? Once I've exposed myself to danger, my sword has to be in the way. Whereas when you strike to the hand, 9 times out of 10, your sword is in the way already because you put it on their hand. Right? So as a baseline, that's a really great tactic. But you gain a ton of information from that. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I throw at Raph's hand, right, and Raph has absolutely no response, like whatsoever, what do you gather from that?
They're really
You're not threatening.
You're not threatening. What else?
He's confident in his guard.
He's confident in his guard.
They're going to be a hard sell on some fakes.
They're going to be hard sell on fakes.
He's looking for your information.
He's looking for my information. It's a great point. What else? Anyone?
They're patient.
Might be more
They're
immobile.
patient. What else?
They might also be more immobile as a fighter if they just don't move at all.
Sure, that is true. That could be. Sure.
Maybe they're waiting for you to return to guard in such a way that they can strike after you feel safe.
Yeah, but again, you're falling into the they're watching you. Right?
Yeah.
But yes, you're correct. Okay, so all those things are great points. Say, for instance, if I throw and they immediately throw back down my arm, right? No, down my arm. Right? Like, okay, what's that tell me?
They're really like jumpy.
Reactionary.
They're reactionary, right? Now, when he threw outside, what does that tell you? He's left-handed.
Yeah.
Well, then, so I would maybe determine that that's an like a not very standard block strike response. Like up is a standard sort of block strike response, where down is not.
Where down and out was
Right.
not, right? Yeah, exactly, correct.
Yeah.
So if somebody throws, if you practice like, you know, the primary, secondary, and tertiary return routine, where when you throw to a given spot, the primary spot is the most likely to come to you, right? The secondary is the second likely, and the third is the least likely, right? And that's determined. I can digress. Lose your shit for a second. If I throw here, the primary return is going to be down arm, right? Because his sword is in the way, and he's least likely to get hit in response, right? If he comes outside to come down on my arm, his hand is moved further away, out of the way, so he's more likely to get struck, right? If he comes under, which would be the tertiary, right? He's moved his hand even further away. You can go down the line. Like if he reached like, you know, back body or something, he's kind of like, this is sort of in between the second and third there, right? Because of how far his hand moves out of the way from being in the way, right? Right? So if somebody returns in a secondary or even tertiary return, like you're like, okay, I can expect that those shots will come to me. Versus if I throw and he throws down arm and return like instantly, you're like, okay, primary return is a big deal in this fight. Okay? Right? Okay? So we are actively forming plans at this point. Right? We're actively analyzing what's happening here. Now, before we start applying this, you also need to analyze yourself. All right?
Yeah.
Now, there's some, I cannot stress enough, and this is what's going to require a ridiculous, I mean, when I say ridiculous, it's kind of understated, amount of repetition that it will take for you to be able to self-analyze when you are tired. Right? When you are tired, you will form fewer plans, more stuff on autopilot, you will give yourself less feedback. You will forget more of what happened in the fight. Okay? So to give yourself self-feedback, what you need to do is when, you know, and you can take this home, but you are going to have a sparring partner, and if we were fighting, and we fight one fight, we go, you know, right? You take my arm and then he hits me in the back, right? Let's say, for instance, I'm like, okay, stop. I'm like, all right, what happened? What was the first thing that happened in the fight?
You took your arm. Oh, you threw the hand.
Took my arm. I threw the hand. You took arm, and then he took my back. Right?
And he stepped up.
Like, okay, so, like, all right, well, how was he allowed to take my arm? Is that my fault or his fault? Did he just do something good, or did I do something bad?
Both.
Sure.
So you threw
what
just
can you control?
yourself.
Ah, yes. Okay. So, like, all right, well, my arm was struck. As a quick response, my arm was struck. Like, oh, all right, well, clearly, my hand was not in the way enough. Okay? I should have either thrown the shot differently, so my hand was already in the way, or and immediately moved to it. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then once he took my arm, he just took my back easily.
Because you had no weapon.
Okay? So, we go again. Arm. Good. Okay. Now, we analyze that. Okay, the first thing that happened, right? I came to shield side shoulder, which scared him away a little bit.
Yeah, he paused.
He paused. He was like, ooh, that was fast. Because before we were just going real slow. What a dick. Right? Okay. And then we exchanged an outside shot. And then he stabbed my arm. And then he stabbed my chest. And I came outside and struck his arm. Right?
Yeah.
So, he stabbed my arm and then he stabbed my chest. How did I allow that to happen?
The arm stab is you don't really have a shield, and you are too close to him, I think.
Exactly. Anytime somebody can strike you in the body, that means you were way too goddamn close to that person. Okay? When you didn't want to be. Now, I can be this close to Raph if my sword is in the way. You got them? Right? There, I missed, but my point stands. If my sword is in the way of his sword, I can stand as close to him as I want. He can't hit me in the body. Right? But when my sword is not in the way, like when he poked me, that means I'm too close.
Mm-hmm.
If he can reach my body, my sword's not. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like, all right, well, Raph had a nice poke. He came off the shield, where, you know, he hid behind the shield, then he kind of peeked out and he poked me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, huh, well, when he was hiding behind that shield, instead of staying so close to him, I should have stepped away, because then he'd have been like, ugh. And that could have maybe hit him in the arm.
Yeah.
You know, I could have had some other response, right? Then I give myself feedback. Like, okay, if I get him to hide behind his shield again, I'm going to cheat back a little bit this time. Right? I'll make that, you know, notice that. Now, we're doing this slowly, but when you do, it takes repetition, especially when you're tired, to do it effectively between a fight in a tournament. You know, because if that's a fight in a tournament, right? Now, I stay way far away from him that time, right? Almost hit my chest. but you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like that's a fight in a tournament. I'm like, oh man, like that was that fight. Do you have a lot of time to break that fight down before the next fight starts?
No.
Nope.
So it's got to happen fast. I'm like, okay, all right, that was good. That was a good exchange, right? So like, okay, well that was great. I was happy with the exchange. I didn't feel outclassed. I didn't feel totally in danger the whole time. You know, like I can work with that. Right? Almost got my chest. Luckily, I was a little further away. Right? So maybe that was too close. My little chest hairs did get cut. But so maybe I'll stay a little further away this time. Right? But I have to make those decisions and see those things immediately post-fight. So when you have a partner, we're going to do this. You'll have a fight. You'll go back and forth. One of you will kill the other. And then you can be like, okay, what were you seeing? This is what I was seeing. You know, what did you do? Who was the first to act? Why did you respond that way? What did you see? Why did you throw here instead of here? You know, this was my plan. What was your plan? Let's say I'm like, all right, my plan is to, again, throw at Raph's hand and try to solicit him to come to my arm so I can catch that block and return down his arm, right? Like, I want him to throw arm, right, so I can return down arm. Like, that's my plan. In an ideal world, if everything goes down the way I want, let's say that's my plan. But then we go to do the fight. We do this. He does this instead. Like, okay, well, here was my plan. Like, what did you see? Why did you go there? Was my arm not juicy enough? Did I need to make? Was it too obvious? Was my hand in the way too much? Your distance. My distance? Yeah, sure. There you go. You're like, oh, well, I was thinking about my hand. I wasn't even thinking about my feet, right? And then you break down. Then you're like, okay. Now you take that information and you decide how you can change it to solicit a response you like more. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let's pair up again. We're going to do two things. First thing we're going to do is, actually, no, let's do it in pairs of 4. All right, so we do pairs of 4? 4 pairs of 4.
Do you mean 8 or
Quads. We'll do quads.
okay? I was like, a pair of 4 sounds like 8.
All right, so I think we're going to have one group of 5.
Okay.
Okay, so within your quad, you're going to have, there's going to be 2 partners, right? So let's say the 2 of you are a partner, right? So you guys are going to be your group, and Arrakis, what was your name again? I'm sorry. Karis. Arrakis and Karis, you guys are a team. You 2 are going to be like, okay, the first person that's going to fight, let's say you're going to fight Karis. You're going to say to him, like, okay, this is what I'm going to try to do. What do you think? You're going to verbally discuss a plan, you know, not so the other person can hear, right? And you're going to do the same. You're You guys have already looked at each other's gear. You guys have already fought quite a bit, at least some, right? So form a small plan, keep it basic. You don't need to have it like a 10-step program here. We're not getting out of debt, right? So the two of you form a plan, and then we'll have a fight, and then you as the fighters talk to each other, you as the observers come into it as well. You're like, okay, this is because what you see might be completely different than what he sees in the fight that he was in. Okay, so not only are you going to learn to effectively communicate with your friends and stuff at practice and analyze a fight, you're also going to be able to analyze yourself. And we're going to get a little bit of fighting. Okay? So first off, we're going to start with just like one fight. Boom. Right? And then you'll flip-flop. And the person who was the cheerleader will become the fighter. Okay? All right, let's do that for a little bit. This is
Activity.
Communicating
Very
is
good.
maybe a lot more effective than following through.
also that is very valid. That is very valid.
Making a simple plan makes it easier to know what went wrong. Because if I make a 10-step plan and step 8 failed, there's so many other things to go through. But if I make a 2-step plan, one of them fails, so it's a lot easier to think about.
True.
So simpler can just be better sometimes.
Yeah.
If I make a plan that involves a commit and that plan is based on faulty information, I'm gonna die.
Sure. What's the famous Mike Tyson saying?
Everyone has a plan until they
till
get
they
punched
get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right? It's so true.
Everybody's a badass till they lose their right arm.
Yeah. Yeah. And me especially.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there's a couple things that I want to touch on, but your plan within a fight, it needs to be fluid. In this activity, you execute your plan, and then you can talk about it, and that's fantastic. And that's a building block. Okay? Once you can do that without feedback from your friends, because it's so much easier to execute a plan when you're like, okay. You like that too? Okay, great. Then you're almost like held accountable. You can't just be in your head and be like, maybe I'm going to take the stab and I'm going to try to hit him in the arm. And then you get in the fight and you're like, I don't like the stab. I don't like the stab. Or you don't even think about it and then you end up reacting to something else. Right? Everyone falls victim to that. Like if something is too juicy, too good of an opportunity, but especially if you're fighting a good fighter, that's most likely part of their plan. They got you to get on board with, right? If the two of us are fighting and I come in and I do this, I'm like, oh, like right? Like my shoulder's so juicy. That's got to be part of my plan, right? Right? I'm like, so then they can come. Right? You want to be ready for that, right? But it's very easy to lose track of your own plan once a fight engages. It's also harder to execute it if you're not being held accountable. Right? There's nothing wrong about taking an opportunity that's juicy. You just need to be able to change your plan on the moment. Right? Every fight is going to be a sequence of events that you need to be fluid and problem solving through the whole thing, because nobody's going to do what you expect. For a fight to go like perfectly, exactly how you planned, right? Like your fight that we saw, like
I'm so excited.
well, exactly. But how rare is that, right? I mean,
Yeah, I never.
it's extraordinary, right? Yeah.
Something I noticed, like with our planes, most of the planes we had, it was like there was a contingency, and most of the time the contingency, ended up coming up. So it's like, oh, if this isn't working, I'm going to pivot to this. Lots of times, they were already ready for that first one, so I think they were thinking, when you're doing this exercise, you're often thinking about kind of like the first response, the tertiary response, secondary response, that kind of thing.
Yeah. As I described with this group over here, when I form, especially in a tournament, when I'm sparring with somebody, I usually use a whole different methodology. Usually I'm trying to find the parameters of a situation when I'm sparring, versus in a tournament when I'm trying to not die in a fight. Right? let me explain a little better. Okay. If Raph and I are sparring, I couldn't care less if I win this fight or not. It's fun to win. Like, that's not why I'm fighting this fight. I'm fighting this fight because I'm constantly working on something, or exploring a subject, or exploring a shot, or a movement, and seeing how people respond. If I was from some previous fight, I fought some other lefty maybe, or even if I had fought Raph, and I'm like, you know, like, I think there's a lot of opportunity to soliciting arm responses to get them to try to throw down my arm. How can I get this response where they throw down my arm? Let's say that's what I want. So I can work through a variety of things trying to solicit that out of Raph in particular for sparring. Whether here, right? Whether I'm like, okay, well, that sort of worked lower, let's say, or, you know, and then on top of that, it's always like, how do I do it and solicit it safely? 2D, right? Easily struck by. No, 2D, not safe enough. Okay. Right. Oh, that's good. Like, okay. That's immediate feedback for myself. Like, all right, that was safer. Now, how can I scale it back? My hand is a little bit lower than that last time when it was here. Now it's here instead of here. Like, where's the breaking point? When do I get hit? When am I safe? And that's going to change depending on who you're fighting on any given day. But you have to explore that so you know yourself. Especially if you're big into like specific sequences, right? As I was saying, like within a tournament, like I'm trying to win, it's more important that I'm safe than exploring something. So I always ask myself multiple questions, but two specifically, okay? If my plan is, say, all right, let's say my plan, which is a very common plan, just like we said before, on a lefty, is I'm going to fake to the sword side somewhere, and then I want to come cross body to their shoulder. That's the plan. That's a great way to kill lefties. It's one of the 3 lefty shots, right? It's like the only lefty cross. Okay? And it's so fun to kill lefties with their own cross. Now, I want to ask myself, I formed this plan. Okay, what do I do if I don't hit them and they don't respond? If I gained anything, have I lost anything? Okay? Also, how dangerous is this? What's the likelihood of me getting killed for doing this? Likelihood of death is very high. Right? Right? So to me, in a tournament setting, that is a horrible plan. The plan that I'm most likely going to die is a horrible plan. People used to talk a lot and like tease me a lot, and they'd be like Peter just like walks away from people in a tournament, and you know fights take forever because I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to win this fucking fight, right? I'm going to be more patient, and I'm going to fight smarter than everybody else that I can. I'm going to. And if that requires me staying far enough away so somebody can't poke me in the body, so they move their sword outside, so they throw outside, like, I'm just going to stay far enough away where they can't hit me until, like, if that's my plan, I want them to throw outside. I'm not going to come within range until I have that arm strung out so that I can hit it easily. Right? As an example. But, so this is a terrible plan. Okay, if that's a terrible plan, all right, well, maybe I want to go for, like, shield side shoulder, right? Maybe I want to poke him in the shield side shoulder. Sword side shoulder, yes, thank you. You know, all right, well, so my plan then is, like, I'm going to chop the hand, and then I want to poke it, right? Right, so here, let's say he blocks it. I miss. But doing it like this is dangerous, right? Right. However, if I do it like this, it's less dangerous. My hand is more in the way, right? If I do it from range, my hand is really in the way, right? right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you adapt what you're doing to find what's safe. But what's safe against Raph might be different for somebody else too. Right? A really common opener against lefties is your like big lefty outside. Right? So if I'm fighting a lefty, it's people love to come outside and they do their lefty chop, which is number 1 of 3. So this is not really a great plan because it's really dangerous, right? So, and if their guard is really good, I wouldn't have any expectation of winning the fight right off the bat. I would have the expectation of, okay, I need to pull that arm out before I can win a fight. So I don't want to try to reach around it at all. So a better plan would be like chopping. So they have to try to reach around my hand, try to get to me, right? Or even just faking, right? As an example. Okay. So 2 things. Like, what have you gained if it doesn't work? What have I gained if I do this? Not much, but I haven't lost them. How dangerous is it?
Not very.
About as safe as it gets, right? Is that good? That's a good plan.
Provided you're out of range.
Yeah, provided I'm watching his feet.
Yeah.
If he picks up that front foot, you better believe that I'm going to be getting away. Right? If he picks up his back foot and steps a crossbody step like that, I'm going to be going that way. If he picks up his back foot to move away, then I'm like, ooh, that's information for later. Okay, great. Then you're like, right? Because he's not going to be able to get away from that. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. The other thing that I need to stress, in any given fight, you're going to lose an arm, you're going to get hit in the leg. When that happens, you don't give up on the plan, you don't give up on the fight. You practice what it takes to win fights with your offhand, you practice what it takes to win fights with down a knee, posting. But you still form a plan. Just because I lose my trusty righty, I'm still going to be like, okay, well now it's time for a new plan. New plan. New plan. And you got to adapt like as that goes. Down the leg's the same thing. Other than being single swording down on a knee.
There's not very many plans, but
Right, so you got to have something. Even if my plan is just like, okay, I want my sword in the way so he can't, so it's harder for him to hit me, right? I try to make him reach around my guard so I can do something in response, right? Because I can't move and he can move. He's got a shield, I have nothing. I'm gonna have this. Right? But the theory is still there, right? So it kind of rolls through the fight. And then, just like we described, like what's also easy with the partner drill is that you can then immediately have a designated time to give yourself feedback and to hear what other people have to say and analyze what happened. Instead of just like we have a fight and we laugh about it and then we fight the next fight. Whereas that's awfully fun and it can it's good for cardio and other reasons, and muscle memory and repetitions or learning. If you don't mentally take that moment to be like, okay, well, the outside shot that I threw, I went too far outside and I got struck for it. Next time, I need to throw a little more shallow and keep my hand a little more in the way. Right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
So, even if it's like, if doing the drill, say, you get like your group, and even if it's just like your sparring partner and you, or somebody like on the side of, or on a ditch field, don't be afraid to be like, whoa, what'd you do there? How did you hit me in the back? Like you were in front of me the whole time. I don't know how you got your sword back there. It tickled me. Right? Can you show me that again? Right? I need to see that. Do that sort of stuff. Take the time and talk things through and think about it and create like an active, conscious, response and plan, right?
And just like any other skill, this is a muscle. Like, don't expect it's just going to immediately work well for you. This is something that you should do over and over and over, and you'll start to see it becoming more and more effective as you get used to doing it. You'll get used to doing, that analysis where we had two people walk up and we're pointing things out, right? Like, Peter and I are at the point where that just happens automatically. Like, we don't even necessarily stop to think about it. It's just part of the process. But you have to do it intentionally and think about it and see what works, what doesn't, make adjustments, and then it will become part of your overall process.
Now, especially as I was growing up fighting, and I don't know if your experience is the same, but the whole meta was to record fights and go back and watch them after the fact. And there is benefit to that, right? However, there is something lost in the translation of being able to immediately address an issue that you may not have been aware of unless you thought about it. Okay? If you can do it actively in the moment, or even like build to that point where you can actively build things in the moment, then you will eventually build to the point where you can actively change plans and make decisions in the midst of the fight. Especially people who are big into like the primary returns and like the whole spin style of fighting. I change what's happening in the fight all the time, and it's because I have the repetition of that criticism and constructive replay in my head at all times. If I make a motion that creates something that I didn't think was going to happen, especially if you start a swing that was your plan, you're like, okay, I'm going to fake it, I'm going to swing, and they do something silly. Not only in that case, yes, but say, say for instance, and this is a very basic look to it, right? If I like stutter out, because my plan is to stutter out and go like inside arm or cross body, and their guard follows me the whole time, like I'm not gonna throw into that, right? Right? So then the plan changes like mid-fight. And then it's like, you gave me that instead. That's where I'll go, right? Or, right, and then they try to reach for me, and he reached for me really well, keep his hand in the way. Like, so had he reached for me like outside, like most normal people are gonna do, like that becomes my plan, right? That wasn't my plan initially, but if they're gonna give it to me, I'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left. Right now, I understand that was a lot. On the surface, it's like, you'll probably watch the video back and be like, well, it's not. To me, it doesn't seem like a lot. It seems like the same thing, kind of like said in 10 different ways, right? But do you guys have any questions or burning concerns?
So, in terms of the drill, if you're running that with like your sparring partner, and like where I'm at, it's a real pain in the ass to get to my park. So there's about 3 of us that spar on a regular basis, and we know each other really well, and we have this really long sort of history of like, what we're gonna do and what it looks like. How do you sort of approximate, other types of fighters where it's like, if I'm fighting the one guy and he's like a really backpedally fighter, but I want to say like today the thing I want to work on in my drills today or whatever is I want to work on my lateral movement, and lateral movement against a backpedaling fighter isn't always like the thing. What's your do you have any sort of add-ons or things you can tweak for the drill to kind of help each other work on stuff like that?
For stuff like that, you kind of have to be symbiotic for each other.
Yeah,
right?
Because it's hard to do naturally.
If you're gonna work on something specifically like that against somebody that's just not their nature, to give that to you, then you need to communicate to them ahead of time. Like, okay, this is what I would like to do today. Do your best to not just run away, right?
Yeah.
Move laterally
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe that requires like a different type of drill,
Yeah.
like a stepping drill where you guys follow each other's steps,
Right.
like to iron that out.
Or gamify it, like make it so your opponent that normally backpedals, they lose if they're ever more than 3 feet away from you.
Tie ropes to each other.
Right, that's
Safety
all
first.
Yeah.
Do some like some hoppy or something where you guys are kind of stuck, unable to really move too far away from each other.
Tie your front legs together. And then fight like this.
Wait, do like a 8-foot circle.
It's like Weird Al with the chicken.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so you can do this by yourself without the other person's consent. However, it's usually more beneficial, especially with like small groups that spar each other a lot, to do them as a group, right? And some of the weirdest, best shit you're gonna do is gonna come up with fighting the same person you've fought every single day of the week for the last 10 years. You know, you will learn more about the parameters in which you can fight safely against somebody that you fight all the time. And so sometimes as an example, there was a period of time where I fought more with my left hand against boardmen than I fought anything else. And I became more comfortable with a single sword in my left hand against a boardman than I was doing anything else on the field. You know, when I was like teaching myself how to two-sword, with help from others, but there was a time period where I was better once I lost my right arm. Okay? And, you know, it's like these like niche situations like that you got to learn to build from. So once you get really good at fighting like your core groups of people, then you learn how to apply that to the masses that you meet at an event, right? And you explore the same ideas, same thoughts. You had a question?
I did, yes. So this class is listed as for like intermediate to advanced fighters. That drill that we did where it's like make up a plan, then apply the plan, then talk about the plan afterwards. How, like, I come from a realm with a lot of new fighters.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would be like reasonable to go back to them and explain the drill to them and have them apply it? Or is this something that like it only really bears fruits once you really know what you're doing and stuff?
Okay, so that's a complicated answer.
That's fair.
And the reason why it's complicated is because, especially when it comes to new fighters and retention, it's more important for them to have fun than it is for them to learn how to fight.
That's fair.
Once people get addicted to fighting and they want to actively pursue improvement, that's when the drill really becomes like effective. When you're at that point where you're fighting a whole bunch of scrub all the time, which we've all done, and everyone will, that's when you can work on something that you wouldn't get to work on if you're fighting somebody of equal ability or better. If you're fighting somebody of equal ability or better, you're less likely to be able to explore new ideas because you'll get away with less.
Yeah.
Right? You'll die faster for making mistakes. When you're fighting new people, there's like a fine line where you learn teaching yourself how to explore new ideas and do new things without building bad habits. So you have to analyze yourself well enough and be like, okay, well, I was fighting this new guy and I was able to be like, whew, like, oh yes, like that was awesome. However,
That's not effective.
if you fought somebody who was going to block that shot, you're going to die, most likely. So you need to be able to all have enough like self-inspection to be like, okay, well, while that was really neat and really fun and cool, and I enjoyed it, it's maybe not applicable in a tournament when I'm fighting somebody good. Right? Like I said, so you're not forming bad habits, but doing stuff like he's talking about, getting better at lateral movements, that's really easy to do with new people because they tend to stand there and go like this. Right? Yeah. So then maybe if you're at a fighter practice with new people, you're like, okay, well, every fight I want to start the fight with like 3 lateral steps with a swing each step, like or something. Right? But you can form your plans against newer people. That's good exercise in your own head. You don't necessarily need to communicate with somebody. But you can also go into it with the assurance that you should be able to execute it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Maybe a little odd, but I know corner time isn't really a thing in our game. Tournaments happen lickety split, but
Yeah.
This kind of drill, this kind of like, how extendable have you seen this towards the very highest end of tournament participation, fighting, that sort of thing? Of like talking through plans, being this kind of slow and deliberate about it versus just acting on the fly most of the time. What's that start to look like?
Especially in bracketed tournaments, when you get to the high levels, I can't tell you the number of tournaments that I've gone into, and I've been like waiting for my fight to start, and just like waiting for this fight to finish so my fight will start. And Delos comes over and he's like, okay, so this guy's gonna do this, and you want to move your foot, and you know, and do this, right? Like, that's a normal thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not too much different.
Okay.
To be then with like, if Raph and I were in a tournament and there was another warlord that was really good, like, what's your plan on? Oh, you're gonna do that? I'm gonna do this. Like, okay, cool. You're like, do it. Right?
I think that one of the bigger differences too is just like as you get better and better at this, as a lot of top fighters do, you don't need as much communication, right? Like I could walk up to Peter and be like, "Hey, backspin on him. He doesn't know how to style." Like, 3 seconds, right? Instead of like, "Hey, let's talk through this detailed thing and explain what we mean." Like, we know each other. Like I first fought Peter 8 years ago, right? So like, I know his fighting style enough that if I want to make a suggestion for him, I can tailor it really quickly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which then sounds like there's a great value in having that core of folks you talk to if you got that kind of communication you can do with them.
Yeah, if you get a group of people like speaking the same language that fight on a consistent basis, it'd be no different than when Al and I were sparring weekly. And we'd go into a tournament and it'd be like, okay, Al, Delphil is not going to let you chase him down. You got to let him come to you. Wait for him to pick up his front foot and then step in. Like, he'll have like an immediate like, okay, and then he can apply it. Whereas somebody else might be like, what do you mean pick up their front foot? What does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Right?
And then there is that self-analysis piece that we talked about as well. Like, if my kingdom, a lot of our tournaments are bear pits into brackets, and so in the bear pits, I'm making sure I get enough wins to seed well, but then I'm doing a lot of experimentation. Like, okay, we've got a pretty decent fighter. What's he gonna do if I try this slightly riskier shot? Is it gonna go really well or not? And then I'm making a mental note of, let me break down how they reacted. Is there data I can use? Maybe not even with that same shot, but just something in general that will add to my ability to then beat them the next time I see them.
Keep in mind, you're doing that in the middle of a 24 streak, though, so you have less to risk.
How many of you guys have seen somebody or done personally, you've gone in a tournament and you did something that you do every day in the ditch, and you're like, oh, I did that and I got killed for it. I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I just did it anyway because I was on autopilot. Who's all done? Everyone? Right? It's really hard to change your mindset unless you actively work on it. Right? If you train goofy, you're gonna fight your kid. If you don't take the time to train for a tournament, you won't be ready for a tournament. Having that mindset. Right?
Even just the shift in what your plan should look like in a ditch where you're willing to take more risks, and then dial down that risk for the tournament and say, no, I'm not going to die in this fight.
Yeah, like all this super juicy outside arm hand match stuff that I've been doing, that I've been exploring and having a lot of fun doing, like, not the best idea for a tournament. Let's go back to the same boring inside throws. Okay? I'm not saying you should like put yourself in a hole of like limited possibilities for a tournament, because sometimes a dynamic shot that wins the tournament is the most glorious thing of the day. But you know, just as like a from ground up, like how to, that's better. Okay? Everything has a place.
Don't do new stuff in a tournament. Practice that at the practice.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yep, exactly. Okay, anyone else? All right, well, enjoy the rest of SKBC.